Hello, everyone. I hope that you're doing amazing wherever you are in the world. My name is Shikha, and I welcome you to my channel. As always, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate the support. In this one, I wanted to speak to you about loneliness and how to overcome this sense of loneliness that a lot of us have in the world right now. I've received this question a while back, but I didn't really know how to answer it because I like to think over things before I answer them, a little bit at least. And I realized that one of the reasons why I didn't have an answer was because I believe that loneliness was a recent thing, like it's a recent epidemic. And a lot of people actually will say online that there's a loneliness epidemic right now, that lots of people are spending time by themselves, or there's a lot of nuclear families and not a lot of community or communality. And therefore, because of technology, because of globalization, because of immigration, because of modernization, all of those shuns, because of all of the stuff that's happening in modern day and age, loneliness is becoming an epidemic. And, I also kind of believe that to be partly true. But I also have this abstract view of loneliness that maybe a lot of you have as well, that I've been developing little by little as I get older. Um, because I've been realizing that no matter how much community you have around you, no matter how many people you have in your family, no matter how many children you are able to procreate, no matter how many friends you have on Facebook or how many things you have in your house, how much hoarding you've done in your life, no matter all of that, there's still going to be this sense of loneliness within you because there is no way for one human being to truly, completely, utterly understand another human being. I think it's actually one of the positive ways in of being alive, I think, because your brain is your castle and no one can peek into it and say, oh, these are all the things that you're thinking. It's kind of like a structure here, and no one can get into it unless they put cameras in our head somehow, or they're able to listen to our thoughts, which maybe they can only do. But right now, in this moment in time, I believe, right now I'm sitting here and no one is listening to my thoughts. They're listening to what I'm saying, they're listening to my body language, they can watch what I'm doing, but they cannot get into my head. That was one of the reasons why I loved the book 1984, was because they were watching him all the time. They had a TV or a camera in his room, and if you haven't read the book, I really do recommend it. It's by George Orwell. It's one of my favorite dystopian novels. And they were watching him all the time, watching him at work, watching him at home, watching him while he was sleeping. But one of the things that they couldn't get into, or that's what he believed, was that they couldn't get into their brain, into his brain, into anyone's brain. That's what he assumed. That they could watch his outer surface, but his inner mind, his inner landscape was completely impervious to their glances. They couldn't figure out what he was thinking. I mean, they kind of did figure it out in the end, so maybe they actually knew what was going on. But right now, in this moment in time, I'd like to believe that people don't know what's going on in my head. I could be having a completely perverted thought right now while I'm speaking to you, and you don't know, unless I make a face that's perverted. But there's no way for an individual to really know another individual at a very deep level. Even though you might know each other really well, you might be in love and you know each other really well and you're completely integrated with each other, even then there's going to be parts to you, deep, deep, deep essential parts to you, that are impermeable and unnoticeable by the other person. They're not going to be able to reach, they're not going to be able to reach that deep part of you, no matter how well they know you, right? So there is this idea that I've been kind of playing with recently, and I've been talking to you a lot about my journey with reconnecting with God and with my spiritual essence. And I realized that that's what the problem is that we assume that if we do everything right, if we play the cards right, then we'll meet someone perfect, and they're gonna know us essentially, and they're gonna know us at a deep level. They're gonna be our twin flame. They're gonna complete us, and we won't feel lonely anymore, right? Unfortunately, a lot of you probably have noticed that even if you have a person that you absolutely love and adore in your life, and I've noticed this myself as well, is that even when I was in a relationship, it seemed perfect. I still felt lonely within it because there were parts of me that were unreachable by that person. Even if I shared it with them, there were still deeper parts of me that could not be reached by any human being on this planet. But those deeper parts can be reached by your spiritual guide, by your spiritual essence, by whatever that term you want to use, God, universe, whoever he or she or it is for you, that God, goddess, God, um, that entity can reach that deep essential part of you. Actually, in fact, it, him, her, they're essentially connected to you at that deeper inner part. They might not be connected with you on the outside, but actually for you on the inside, the deepest part of you is actually connected to God, to that spiritual part, that spiritual being that you believe in, right? That creator, the great creator, or the infinite consciousness, whatever term you want to use for him, it, her, they're connected to that part. And so what happens to a lot of us, I think, is that are looking for we're looking to alleviate our loneliness by going to other people, by going to other things, by buying things, by going shopping, by watching TV, by having sex, by drinking alcohol or eating sugar, chocolate cakes, things like that, right? And we're trying to alleviate our loneliness using all these different things, which maybe partly it will, for sure, of course it will, right? It helps, definitely helps. But then there's still parts of us that are untouched, no matter what we do. And we still feel that loneliness. And we're still like, oh, I thought I'd figured it out. You know, I found the love of my life and I'm with them. Why do I still feel lonely? Why do I still feel alone? Why do I still feel like there's something missing? And so I wanted to answer this question in a very abstract fashion, that saying that, you know, it is when you kind of realize that that spiritual essence, that deep part of you is connected to the cosmic consciousness and is connected to that deep source, and that's the only thing it's really connected to. And that loneliness will not be alleviated until you realize that that is the connection that you're missing. It's the connection that's causing you to feel lonely, not the fact that you don't have a person in your life, not the fact that you are not a mother or a father, not the fact that you don't have $1 million in the bank, or all of those things that we imagine are the reason for our loneliness. That's not the reason for your loneliness. The reason, actually, in fact, is the fact that you're not connected to that bigger part of you. And you're imagining that you're going to find yourself, you're going to alleviate your loneliness and all these little things, and it doesn't work. And over again, we try, and if we fail, and then we imagine that it's something wrong with us. And we're like, well, it must be something wrong with me. I can't find anyone. And even if I find someone, I still feel lonely in the relationship. Or even if I find someone, they never stick around. Or, you know, even if I buy something, it only lasts for a second, that whole, whatever it might be, you know, whatever we use to alleviate our loneliness, we imagine that it should last, right? It should be permanent somehow. It's not permanent. It's never permanent. Of course, you've probably noticed it by now. And so we have this sense of loneliness, and we're like, how do I overcome this sense of loneliness that I have? And we imagine that it's going to be some person, something, or some physical manifestation here on this planet that's going to fix it. We're like, maybe if Trump was elected next, then we won't be as lonely, you know? Or if there were less immigrants in the world, we wouldn't be as lonely. Or, I don't know, if there were less trans people or less gay people in the world, maybe I wouldn't be as lonely. You know, all those things that we imagine are kind of causing our loneliness. Inane things, insane things sometimes. And you're like, really? How can you blame this random entity? But we do. And we imagine that that's a reason. But all we need to do is come back to our essence. And all of a sudden we're like, I'm not lonely anymore. And that's what I'm noticing with myself. And I don't really want to become like a preacher here. Like, I'm not a preacher. I'm not, definitely not trying to preach to you. But I'm noticing for myself is that, you know, I felt lonely almost all of my life until now. And all of a sudden, I've connected to that entity, that beautiful entity up there, wherever you want to call it, or inside of me. And all of a sudden, I have this deep connection, this deep, deep, deep connection to the source, and I just don't feel lonely anymore. I am literally spending all of my time in this room by myself. I go out to eat, and maybe I spend maybe an hour a day, if that, with my family. An hour, maybe, that, if that, really. Some days I'm in my room the whole time. I only go out to grab food for like 10 minutes, and that's it. And so I'm literally spending all of my time by myself, and I feel not even a smidgen of loneliness, not even a little bit of loneliness, because I have that connection that I'm tapped into, plugged into that deep consciousness, that infinite consciousness, or whatever word you want to use, God, Allah, um, Jesus Christ, whatever that word is for you, it doesn't really matter the word. I'm tapped into it. And so all of a sudden, there's no loneliness anymore, right? Now, obviously, as I said, this is a very abstract way of looking at it. So maybe you won't relate to it. And maybe you're just going to be like, well, no, my loneliness is because of something physical. Then that's okay. Go find that physical thing. But I have been searching for that physical source of loneliness for the past 37 years, and I haven't found it until now. So, but I hope you'll be more lucky than me, right? I wish you good luck. And if you have more to share with me, if you think that I'm wrong in some way, please share with me. I'm always listening. I'm always open to listen to things, unless they're being derogatory or racist or homophobic in some way. But, if you have something to add to this, I'd love to hear. Again, I'm so grateful that you're listening, subscribing, and commenting. I really appreciate the support. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye for now.